I was waiting for someone else, but Michael didn't make it until somebody else drops out. So we can start talking now if you want to. What do you, anybody want, do you want to listen to what he's saying still? Or do you want to talk?
It depends what your audience wants, really. And congratulations on a perfect stream, Rich.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bernard, the Adeptelkhemist. Thank you for that. Yeah, it was crazy, right? 9,000 showed up. 95. We still got 5,200 here.
I'll go jackpot. And like, but what is this? Like, is this guy part of Greer's whole thing, or like, is this real disclosure? Is this just another CIA spook?
Anybody want to take that and run with it? Or are you asking? Are you do you want? Look,
well, your audience is all saying shut up and play the video. So.
Yeah, oh, okay. So let's do that for a while. Thank you, UFO KC. All right, I'm gonna play the stream. We're gonna talk for a little bit, so don't go anywhere. We're gonna watch this because people are demanding we play it. Let's go.
If you like, but the simple fact is, your Pentagon, your Department.
Just mute your microphone so we don't hear you moving around.
That because I've spoken to people in the program who tell me that what Mr. Grush is telling you is the truth. And the huge frustration that he and indeed some of his own colleagues who are still in Arrow feel is that you, the American public, deserve the truth. Now, the thing that I really respect and admire, I trained as a lawyer as a younger man, and I love and respect the American Constitution. You have transparency and accountability controls in your Congress that are absolutely magnificent. And people like Dave Grush, he's only one of an enormous number of people who've now come forward and indicated their willingness to give evidence to the Congress. They've given evidence in secret to those committees in the Congress. The Congress already has this information. There are members of your so-called Gang of Eight, the people who are entrusted in your Congress with the most sensitive secrets, who I know what Mr. Grush is telling them. And it's incumbent on the American public to demand of your government not the secrets of how this technology works. I can understand why you might want to keep that confidential. I'm told that the technology that is represented by these devices is a dreadful weapon. It could do terrible things. It could destroy the planet. So I can see the need to classify that aspect of it. But I think the fact that there's been an 80 to 90 year cover-up that has concealed, not just from the American public, but from the world, the existence of these craft, the existence of multiple species of non-human intelligence, and moreover, the most important thing, the technologies. I've spoken to people in the legacy program who have told me it's getting nowhere. They're not getting the scientific advancements they want, even though they have this technology in front of them, because they don't have the ability to share this information with other scientists. That's the key issue.
It's just so much. Look, I get that this is what you have done for a long time, and you know the ins and outs. For people on the outside, it's so much for us to take in. I was just thinking about, 20 years ago, you were thought to be kind of crazy if you talked about UFOs. The government said there was no program at all. It wasn't really until 2020 that they opened up and said they did have a secret program all those years looking into things, even released some videos. Earlier this week, Ross, I interviewed Leslie Kean, a very respected journalist, broke some of those stories in the New York Times back in 2020 about that secret government program. Also broke this story involving the whistleblower, David Grush. She says, much like you, that she has other sources too, sources who don't even know David Grush, who back up what he says. I want you to listen to what she said, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
I believe it because of all the sources I have who have told me the same thing. So who am I to doubt these very, very high-level people who have been inside these programs for decades, have done their work, and are all telling me the same thing? I mean, I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy among all these people who don't know each other to make something like this up.
And something else I think is significant is that David Grush, the whistleblower's attorney who represented him through this process, is the former inspector general to the intelligence community. So would he really take on a case like this with his reputation if he didn't believe it to be true. I think that's an important side to all of this. But in terms of what Leslie said, Ross, do you also have sources totally separate from Grush who back up what he said?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I was first introduced to the existence of the crash retrieval program by a great American called Nat Kovitz, who was the former head of research and development, the chief geek, if you like, for the US Navy. And Nat, God bless him, was dying from cancer, but he made a decision very close towards his end to tell me the truth. And I put part of that into my book, but I didn't reveal the full extent of what I was told. I was introduced by Nat to people who led me to other people who were working in the legacy program. And that's why I'm so sure that this is real. And it's why I'm so disappointed that the oversight controls in your Congress don't appear to have worked, because incredibly, the scientists say they don't think that the Congress, even the presidents, have always been told the truth about this. That's the thing that concerns them, that there's been this secret program going on, funded by you, the US taxpayer, at enormous expense. And yet the whole thing has been kept secret from most people in the Congress, particularly from the oversight committees that actually have the right and the responsibility to know about programs like this. Yeah, and I know for a fact presidents have been denied. Presidents have been denied briefings on this stuff. And I guess as somebody who's legally trained, I just think that's appalling. It represents a breakdown in the accountability controls in your government. People have exceeded their authority. And I'll tell you one thing that really shocked me. One person in the program told me that they refer to the president of the United States is not briefed in most cases, into the program because he is, quote, a temporary employee. The arrogance of these people is palpable. That's what shocks me. There are a cadre of people who have taken it upon themselves to keep a secret for no good reason. The public have a right to know that people are engaging with a non-human intelligence on this planet.
Let me ask you this, Ross. Sorry to interrupt you, but when David Grush talked about quite a number, that was his quote, quite a number of these non-human craft that exist out there that are in storage. Were you able to nail him down on that anymore? I mean, is it a couple? Are there dozens? Do we know what he meant?
Look, I have a very good idea of how many there are, but David, in the interview with me, explained that he doesn't want the public to know yet because he doesn't want our adversaries to know. He doesn't want the Russians or the Chinese to know too much about how advanced the Americans are in terms of what they've been able to recover. And that's because I know from my own sources, the Russians particularly, but probably also the Chinese, have also recovered non-human technology. What's been going on, Brian, is a secret Cold War, a battle between the great powers to gain control of this technology and to master it.
I love how
the
this
terrible
British
thing is, if you think about the fact that your president controls a technology that can literally destroy the planet, nuclear weapons, and we've known that these UAPs are interfering with these nuclear sites. There's a great book about this by a friend of mine, Robert Hastings. But the thing that really does worry me is that there's a real risk. If the public don't know this, if military commanders don't know this, there's a real risk of an escalation where a UAP is confused for an enemy attack, and we end up with a situation where nuclear missiles are launched by mistake.
Yeah, listen, I hear what you're saying, but when you talk about a Cold War and secret non-human craft in multiple countries, again, it's hard to wrap your mind around and to think that something like that could really remain a secret all of this time with social media and camera phones and everyone pretty much knowing everything these days. Ross, stay there. We're going to keep.
Guys, I want to say something real quick. This is really interesting. And I know some of you are here waiting to chat and want to discuss. I say we watch this because I see what's coming up and it looks really good. So I think we should watch it. If you guys want to hang out, you're more than welcome to stay. We're going live until it's over, and we're going to talk for a good portion when this ends. Everybody that's here, just please mute your microphone so we don't hear any background noises. So far, it's been perfect, and I'll continue this stream now.
Keep you part of the conversation. I want to bring in two people who say they've actually seen UAP, essentially UFOs firsthand. We've all seen it in the video too. The Pentagon shared it publicly. Sean Cahill is a former Navy chief who saw the so-called Tictoc in 2004, and Alex Dietrich is a retired Navy commander who also saw the Tictoc. That video is unbelievable. It's really an honor to have both of you with us tonight. First of all, I want to ask you, Alex, first, what did you make of David Grush's story? I know you've seen the interview. Do you find it believable?
There's a lot to unpack there. I'm not familiar with the sources that he's referring to. I'm certainly not familiar with the hard evidence, the data, or any physical evidence that he referred to there. But what I do know is that I saw something strange in 2004, November 14, 2004. It's been referred to as the Nimitz encounter or the Tic-Tac incident. And when we reported it at the time, and in years since, even today, it's my understanding that aircrew operators, folks who see something, don't have a good protocol. They don't have a good process to report it. So you ride the subway and you see a billboard that says, if you see something, say something. There's an easy way to report a suspicious package. But if you're seeing something in the sky that doesn't make sense, looks out of place, especially around a military exercise or near a civilian city center, especially with the events of 9/11 still so fresh in our hearts and our minds, we need to have a protocol in place. We need to have folks who are dedicated and a system to report these and analyze these unidentified phenomenon.
Yeah, and that seems to be the bigger issue here, regardless of whether you're a skeptic or a believer. The problem here seems to be that we don't have a system, a good, real, honest system where people can come forward who are in the military and actually report things and not to be made to look crazy and that kind of thing. Sean, I have to ask you, when you first saw the Tic-Tac, along with a number of other people in the area and who were on the ship, I mean, did people take you seriously? Did you feel like you were being like made fun of, or did you feel like the military was open to hearing what you guys actually saw?
During the week of that exercise, we took it very seriously. There was no real ridicule on board until after the fact, when we were all trying to figure out what had happened. That was when we were making jokes and making light of the situation. But during the situation, we took it very seriously because there was an unknown aircraft in the vicinity of our battle group. I have to say that I cannot say with assurance that what I saw was the same thing that Commander Fravor or Commander Dietrich saw. I saw 5 to 7 lights in the sky move in a pattern that I'd never seen before throughout that point, decade of my career, and now 20 years worth, that seems commensurate with UAP. But I can say that this is something I followed for the last 5 years since the 2017 article came out, and I've worked diligently at it, usually 24/7, as we say. This is a very present phenomenon now. It is not just that strange thing that I saw in the sky one time.
I think the difference here, though, Ross, is when Sean and Alex talk about what they saw, we've got the video to back it up. And we've now got accounts from a number of people in the military who saw the very same thing. So it's easy to accept that. It's hard to go from seeing this video and saying, okay, this is not explainable and clearly is something strange going on, to we have these crafts in our possession, we have bodies, there is a secret Cold War. I just think it's hard to make that leap for Americans when there's no hard evidence, when we can't see video or pictures.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's why Mr. Grush is saying that people need to get Congress to hold the hearings where this evidence can be brought to light. He's not expecting people to believe him straight off, frankly. He's hoping that people will be skeptical. But what he's hoping, and what I think a lot of people are hoping, is that Congress will suddenly find the courage to start demanding answers, because I know evidence has been presented to Senate committees, particularly, And I know that there's been meetings in the Congress attended by senators where information has been discussed relating to the crash retrieval program. And I also, by the way, have information that suggests the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, attended at least one of these meetings. So I think the president probably, or at least his most senior advisor, does know. And we're in a situation now where it's incumbent on the Congress and the president to be open about the fact that it doesn't appear to be forthcoming with that evidence. So what needs to happen, I think, is for there to be a public push, and I think also engagement by the media. There's been a terrible failure of the media here, where they've accepted the disinformation line that's been put by the different intelligence services that have tried to shut this issue down. And there's been a lamentable failure of investigative media. I mean, when I started doing my book, I expected to disprove the phenomenon. I thought I was going to find a black project, some kind of secret project in working with high-tech aerospace. And it turned out it wasn't American technology or Russian or Chinese. It was something else. And the simple fact is, media could have done those same inquiries and reached the same conclusion.
Yeah, well, I have to say, and I think this is a proud moment for News Nation, too, because you don't see this kind of reporting, I don't think, on the mainstream media. You've got the sort of spooky sci-fi shows with the crazy graphics that do the UFO stories, but you don't see real hard journalism questioning the situation, but being fair throughout. So I think this is really like a moment for News Nation that we're standing out, because you just don't see other mainstream media taking this on. Sean Cahill, Alex Dietrich, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Ross, stick around, because we're going to keep you where you are. The Pentagon says they can't verify Grush's claims that the government is hiding non-human vehicles, but Congress says it will investigate. And we are going to hear from the lawmaker who plans to lead that effort. That's coming up right after this.
Your bill way up. Save up to $600 a year with Red Pocket Mobile.
All right, welcome back to this News Nation Live special, where we are processing together what we heard from the UFO whistleblower David Grush, who claims the U.S. government has a secret crash retrieval program and even has non-human crafts in its possession. I want to talk to my colleague, Joe Khalil, now in Washington. He has literally been chasing down lawmakers all week for reaction. Joe, tell me, what's your feeling? Because I've seen you walk in the halls of Congress every day, literally chasing some of these guys down. Do you get the feeling that they're taking what David Grush is saying seriously?
I do, Brian. I mean, there's certainly curiosity. And look, the claims that he has made are very serious, right? The Pentagon right away came out and sort of denied it, saying that there is no verifiable information to back up his claims. But when I was talking to lawmakers this week on Capitol Hill, and we've talked to dozens of them, the sense that I got is there is a serious curiosity about this. A lot of them were fascinated. Many of them say that they want to learn more. And certainly they believe this is a topic worth investigating. The allegations about a secret government program to recover UFO crash debris hidden from the public and from Congress has prompted lawmakers into action this week.
We plan on having a hearing pertaining to that whole issue.
The chairman of the powerful House Oversight Committee, Jim Comer, confirming first to News Nation that his committee will investigate whistleblower David Grush's claims. Mr. Grush alleging the government possesses multiple craft of non-human origin.
We've got something in our airspace that our military does not control.
Congressman Tim Burchett will lead the planned hearing. He points out the U.S. military pilots have been reporting UAP encounters for years. And the congressman alleges military intelligence has not been forthcoming with Congress about those interactions.
Define our laws of physics.
And while there's wide agreement in Congress that Grush's claims are worthy of looking into, many are skeptical, like former astronaut and Navy captain Senator Mark Kelly. He tells News Nation he has trouble accepting that the military would mislead Congress in the way that Grush alleges.
I haven't seen any reasons to believe that they're not forthcoming.
The Monopoly guy.
And Brian, we included Senator Kelly in there because I did want to get that aspect of it. Certainly, there are lawmakers who are skeptical, but many more. The large reaction that I got was that people want to learn more. And one of the reactions we got was from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who she's going to be one of two lawmakers, along with Tim Burchett, who you heard in that piece, who's going to be leading these hearings. And she sent us a statement, I'll sort of sum it up, where she basically says, for years, Americans have been curious about UAPs, but for the most part, the default government position has been to leave the public in the dark. So she says she's certainly looking forward to having these hearings and shining some serious light on a lot of these questions, Brian.
And it does appear to be a bipartisan effort at this point, Joe. With the lawmakers who you have spoken to, have you gotten a sense whether any of them have had any sort of classified briefings or may know more about David Grush and his claims than what they're actually letting on?
You know, it's my sense that many lawmakers are just as much in the dark as the general public is, you know, with the exception maybe of a small handful, just from the reactions I was getting. Again, a lot of them really fascinated by Grush's comments and by his claims. And the fact that they had that posture led me to believe that many of them just want to know what the rest of the public wants to know about this. So it was truly a sense that I think they are curious, and that's why they're pursuing these hearings, which, again, we know are going to happen eventually.
I want to bring Ross Coulthart back in. He, of course, is the journalist who did the interview with David Grush. Ross, you've been working on these sort of stories for a long time. 2020 was a big moment when the U.S. government came clean with the program, released those videos, released that Tictoc video, which we were just talking about, which was a big deal at the time. Do you feel, Ross, like this is a moment we're in now? Do you think this is going to make it onto the timeline, that we are going to learn more, that more whistleblowers will come forward?
I'm talking to other people who are weighing up whether they will come forward, and a lot of whether they come forward depends on how Mr. Grush is treated. They're very nervous. I mean, there are people who have devoted much of their lives to working on the technologies that we're talking about, and they're deeply frustrated that the American public don't know about it, and that a great scientific endeavor could be undertaken to actually make breakthroughs in these technologies. And so I think the thing I really admire is all of these people are patriots. They're not telling me things that should be kept classified. They're not telling me how to develop these technologies. They're not telling me how to develop weapons. What they're keen to see is almost like a Manhattan Project style development, where America does what it's so good at doing, the exceptionalism of the Apollo moon mission, the achievement of building the nuclear bomb during the Second World War. That's what's needed here. There are technologies, propulsion technologies and energy technologies, if Mr. Grush is telling the truth, and I think he is, that could be developed for not just America's advantage, but also for the world's. And there's a strong patriotic sense here that it's time that this issue was brought out of the darkness. And I do know, I've spoken to people in Congress, senators and representatives, who've privately admitted to me that they do know the truth of what Mr. Grush is talking about. But there's a fear, there's a genuine fear of doing the wrong thing, because we are at a very dangerous time in human history right now. You know, we're teetering on the edge of confrontations with Russia and China. And frankly, if anybody's going to win, I want it to be the good guys. I want it to be our American ally. And Australia, my country, is part of that Five Eyes alliance that has done so many good things to help protect the world and keep security. And I guess the people that are weighing coming forward, they feel very strongly that that security, if anything, is imperiled by the continuing secrecy that we're seeing here. They're fearful that unless this is brought out into the open, it's just going to stay hidden forever. And they're saying to me the reason why they think it's being kept secret is because the gatekeepers to this information are terrified of getting into trouble, because they have committed crimes. They've committed terrible crimes.
No, yeah, I mean, and it seemed like that's what David Grush's motivation was too in all of this. I want to read part of the Pentagon statement because I think it's important. Obviously, when we first started reporting on this at the beginning of the week, the Pentagon did release a statement that said, in part, to date, AARO, which is the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. Joe, you deal with these government groups all the time. What did you make of that statement? I mean, the first thing I thought of was they didn't actually come out and say, no, this isn't true. They just said no verifiable information, Joe.
That was my first reaction too, Brian, and I don't want to speculate too much about it, but I thought that that word verifiable information may be doing a lot of work there. So that was my reaction, and as I was taking it to members of Congress, certainly I was also asking about the Pentagon response specifically. And, you know, I mean, as we're hearing, right, from a number of people here, there certainly may be some people in the higher echelons, people who have certain security clearances that have some of this information that may just be nervous about releasing it for whatever reason. I can tell you that there is a sense, you know, just to build on what Ross has said, there is a sense among a lot of members of Congress that they feel like the public does deserve to know more, that if this information is available and is out there, that it should be shared publicly, and that for years and years and years, the sort of posture that we're getting from the Pentagon and from other organizations is that the first reaction is just to keep those things quiet for whatever reason. Obviously, there are legitimate reasons to keep certain bits of information classified, and certainly there are worries about what, you know, our adversaries have and what they know and what they are capable of. So you can sort of understand some of the reasons for the classification. But what I heard over and over and over again is that, you know, if what these basic claims that Grush is making now, if they are true, then certainly that is worth investigating and worth at least shining some light, because that, they think, should be public knowledge.
And Ross, just real quick, because we've got to squeeze a break in here, but I guess if you believe Grush and everything he has said, then the Pentagon statement actually makes sense, because he is claiming that AARO, the group that's supposed to be investigating these things, does not even know about the secret program. So the statement actually lines up with what he's claiming.
Exactly. AARO does not have Title 50 access, which would give it access to look at special access programs and covert actions. And because of that, it can't do its job.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joe. Ross, don't go anywhere, because we've...
But remember, the sooner you get started, the sooner your results of great looking get started.
Code. Don't wait. Scan the code.
The word credible is important. Yes. You appreciate. Mm-hmm. So an official investigatory body of the United States government has determined that your allegations are credible.
Correct.
Welcome back. I'm Brian Enton. We are live reacting to News Nation's exclusive one-on-one interview with UFO Pentagon whistleblower David Grush, alleging a secret government program to retrieve alien vehicles. Ross Coulthart is back with me. He did the interview for News Nation, and I want to bring in some more voices also to add to this conversation. We want to get all sides in. Mick West is a key voice in these discussions. He does not believe Dave's story. He doesn't think that it adds up. I also have with me Michael Schellenberger, who believes that this has been a long time coming, and Michael does believe David Grush's story. But Mick, I want to start with you. You've seen the interview. Are you essentially calling David Grush a liar?
No, I think he seems to actually believe what he's saying. But the clip you just played there, the complaint and the IG adding credibility to his story, isn't actually true. His lawyer, who just basically parted ways with him a couple of days ago, issued a statement, which is quite unusual, saying that they had been misrepresented, and that the whistleblower complaint was actually very narrowly scoped and did not speak to the specifics of the alleged classified information that Mr. Grush is now publicly characterizing. So the idea that it adds credibility to the actual claims he is making isn't true. It's simply credible that he's making some allegation that there was something that was covered up, not what that thing actually was.
Let me bring Ross in because there is some, there's an interesting development. I read the statement too, Ross. I didn't quite read it like that. I took the statement from his lawyer and the former inspector general to be, look, we did what we were out to do here to get him this far, and we've, you know, we've finished. I mean, what's going on with the lawyer?
West!
Okay, let me just make it very clear here. Mick's unfortunately misconceived what the lawyers were actually talking about. Great respect. The simple fact is the representations that were made by the Inspector General, not by the lawyers, are the ones that are relevant. And the Inspector General of Intelligence Security, and I've confirmed this with Mr. Grush, the Inspector General of Intelligence and Security took evidence under oath, not only from Mr. Gruff, but also from people inside the legacy UAP program. Witnesses have given evidence in support of David Grush's allegations to the Inspector General. And it wasn't just about the reprisal allegations. Unfortunately, you're going to hear in coming days, I can't talk about it at this stage, but you're going to hear in coming days that Chuck McCullough is still acting for David Grush. He hasn't dissociated himself from his client at all. And in fact, you will see something I'm not allowed to explain, but basically it'll come out in due course that Mr. McCullough is still acting for his client.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that because that'll be an interesting. I just want to get Mick back in. We'll be looking for that because there's been some uncertainty with the lawyer situation. But Mick, I just want to ask you because you're a skeptic. The thing that I keep going back to is David Grush has these incredible credentials, high-level intelligence officer, spent years keeping these secrets, has now gone under oath essentially, and could go to jail for lying about some of this stuff. I mean, what would his reason for lying be?
I don't necessarily think that he's lying. All the stuff that he says has been cleared by DOPSA, the Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review. That doesn't mean that it's actually true. It doesn't mean that he's lying, but it also doesn't mean that it's accurate. The things that have been cleared for release are
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't understand. Yeah. What do you mean if you don't believe his story, but then wouldn't he be lying? Explain to me what you mean.
No, he will be mistaken. If someone has told him stuff and he believes that what they have told him, he is not lying. He's just mistaken. And the claims that he's made are quite extraordinary, and they're things that would be secret. The idea that we have aliens are killing Americans, the thing that we've discovered these craft, and the actual details of the analysis that we've performed on this isotopic analysis and things like that. If that was actually an adversary craft, we wouldn't want them to know what type of analysis we performed on them. So he's revealing things that would be secret. They've been cleared by the Department of Defense, which means they're not actually secret, which probably means that they're not actually true.
Interesting. Okay, I follow what you're saying now. Michael, I want to bring you in. You've said publicly just this week that you have heard from sources who also back up what Grush has said. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's right. And I just want to clarify that I have not said that I believe David Grush. What I've said is that I've spoken to multiple other people with high levels of security clearance who confirm the basic claim that Grush is making, which is that the U.S. government is in possession of over 12 non-human craft. I'm actually not making statements about my own beliefs. I'm reporting what I was told by people with a lot of credibility that are in a position to know and that are very sane and so respected that they have achieved high levels of security clearance.
Let me ask you, Michael, because like the #1 tweet that I've gotten with people reaching out to me and commenting and sending me DMs is, Brian, you've fallen for this. This is all a distraction. The government is trying to distract us from something. By putting this out there. What do people mean by that, Michael? I mean, have you heard this too?
Oh, sure. And we should be concerned that the U.S. government is engaged in a disinformation campaign. It's engaged in disinformation campaigns since the late 1940s. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's very well documented. We've seen, in fact, the U.S. government has admitted to it. There's a 1978 New York Times Magazine article about U.S. government cover-up. We know from the 2017 New York Times revelations around, including the videos, that the Pentagon had been studying this for decades and covered it up. So, I mean, just to cut to the chase, I think the issue here is that if you're really sure that there's no non-human craft in the possession of the U.S. government, then nobody should have any problem with going to look for them. So really what's the question here is Congress going to finally do what it should have done many decades ago? And that's to stand up to very powerful people in the military and intelligence communities to demand that we should be able to go and search those places where the allegations are being made that there are these non-human craft. I mean, that's the bottom line. Congress needs to find its courage. I would note that, this is coming at a time where we've seen an abuse of power in multiple agencies. I've been reporting on whistleblowers from the FBI. I have more whistleblower stories coming. And we're seeing these agencies that are supposed to be under the control of, as well as the direct supervision of Congress, evading congressional oversight. That's why David Grush and so many other people have had to become whistleblowers to go directly to Congress because the Aero DOD agency that studies this issue had not been passing that information on to Congress.
Yeah, and I see Mick also nodding his head. It does seem like regardless of what side of this issue you're on, whether you believe it or not, there does seem to be agreement that Congress should investigate and that the American people should know the truth about what is actually known. Mick West, Michael Schellenberger, thank you so much both for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's good to be with you.
Still coming up just ahead, a Las Vegas family called the police claiming to see an 8-foot-tall creature after a crash in their backyard. The craziest part of this to me is that a police officer also saw something too. This just happened this week. Very weird timing. It came out this week as we do this story on the whistleblower coming forward.
We'll come back to that. So let's start our little discussion. Shall we? Because they're done. Who wants to go first?
I don't mind going first.
I'd love to hear it. Nobody wants to hear me, so what's going on?
Oh, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this amazing live stream, Rich. This is just phenomenal. Everybody's on fire in the chat. People know what's going down. But what I think is fascinating, and for one, I just want to let everybody know who I am because I don't think a lot of people here do know who I am. But so the name of my channel is Alien Girl 111. Please come, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to us over there. But yeah, I go live Monday through Friday, but I wanted to just jump on here because the thing that really, really got me is, did we just hear an agreement between extraterrestrials and humans being discussed? Was that something that happened in the last hour?
Or that it's finally being publicized and publicly discussed?
No, man, there was a point where Ross was saying to Grush, were there agreements between extraterrestrials and humans? This was a discussion and part of the interview over the last hour. It was a very small part. It was about 2 minutes. It did happen. I'm not crazy. Maybe I am crazy.
I heard that too, but what I heard was that it was an agreement between nations regarding extraterrestrials themselves, as that we would not blow each other up for their sake.
I recall what you're talking about, Alien Girl, and I think Grush's response was that he would also like to know if there had been agreements. Not that there was an agreement, according to the information that he had access to, but there was interest in knowing if there had been any kind of communication and an agreement, but not that one had been made.
What I find really interesting is, why are so many people coming and talking to him and supposedly telling him this information? What is it about Grush that he's the guy that everybody just started going and telling these things to? He never really got into that.
Because of Elizondo. Elizondo knew him, liked him, groomed him.
Elizondo and
Greer.
Corbell repeat stories.
And Greer talked to him about, that's why he believes
Greer talks to everybody, Richie.
I know, but but he might be talking tomorrow during Greer's disclosure. I think he's going to be one of the guest speakers that they got at the last minute.
I'm sure he
Well, what if we back it up first, right? Like, what if we go down the line and just say whether we believe Grush or not, and like a percentage wise on how much we believe him, because it kind of gets misconstrued a little bit when we just start talking about our topics.
But everything he's saying is hearsay. It's secondhand. He didn't see any videos. He didn't see any pictures. He heard. I
So
heard
one
stuff too from
question
Greer, but I'm not going around saying I'm this guy who has this top clearance and I'm a nice guy and a trustworthy guy, so you should trust me because I'm nice and everybody said so. What kind of world are we living in where hearsay is now evidence, kind of? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I believe he heard this stuff. I believe he believes it. But he's telling us what the government is doing, and that's crazy. This is historic. People, let's not forget, it's not every day people come out like this. This is crazy.
True. That's when they went to the missile sites and the nuclear sites and whatnot. And is this now officially acknowledging the past 50 years of the UFO UAPs at the nuclear sites and confirming it all? Because that's a big thing right there, if that's the case.
Anybody want to go on that? I feel like I'm
Maybe,
over-talking.
but that's also come out before. The other, like the big red flag that I had, like the first one, and I do find him an interesting character. Like he's Elizondo right off the bat. I was not a fan. Grush, I find interesting because he's doing something that none of the other whistleblowers have done before, right? Which is he's coming out and saying, yes, we have craft. Yes, we have bodies. Like he's coming right out and blatantly saying all of this. But the biggest problem that I had, especially with the original interview, was if you read the article that Leslie Keene and Ralph Blumenthal wrote about Grush, it said right at the very beginning that he presented the information to the Department of Defense that he was going to be presenting publicly to get their approval. However, in the interview with Ross Coulthart, he was saying, I'm sitting here at great personal risk. How is it great personal risk if the information you're putting out has already been approved by the Department of Defense?
Exactly.
Sir.
Great point.
If we want to look at the interview, Grush did say that people have been silenced over this information. I'm just going off of what he said. And, you know, one thing to another there, you can add that up. And it's like, okay, I go on as a whistleblower, right? Who is he going to get rehired by the government? Like, he stepped away from his job. I want to know, like, aside from the interview, what is he gaining from this? He's not getting money from this. He's not going to be lining up to get a security clearance job after doing this, right? I think those are topics to think about when we're like looking at
that. Like the kid that was arrested for leaking the NATO documents or whatnot, he's still in jail, thrown in instantly, compared to where's any sort of real UFO disclosure? Oh, there's no actual evidence, and then there's no leaks, and it's like he's got to just be an op. He's clearly hired by the government, fed by the government to disclose what they want.
It's not leaking.
That's interesting.
Whoa.
All right. Any other views on that one?
Whoa, something just happened.
It's so
Hello?
crazy.
What just happened?
Weird. Yeah, right?
I didn't do that. Now here, I just want to let you guys know, I've never seen this before on StreamYard, but there's two platforms I'm being streamed to that I didn't connect to.
I'm restreaming to my channels. Anybody can restream to their channels by hitting the button in the right corner that says
Get out of here. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Ah, that's amazing. I thought, oh, YouTube's watching. They're helping me out tonight. I'm telling people that's got to be a reason why 9,000 people were here.
No,
you guys are crazy. I'm glad.
Thousands. I'm only adding like 50 people between my two
Dude,
channels.
that's incredible. I didn't know. I thought I had to approve people to stream it. That's great. Hey, more the merrier, I say. So do you guys believe? Well, okay, let's scratch that. Why now? Why is Grush the guy? What's going on? Why? We are all in this field. Amy has her own show. Lynn from Rebellious Unknown has her own show. Everybody here seems to be in the field and know, like, this isn't for us. This is for all the people who are general population people. This is for the general pop. It's like ufology 101. This is teaching us from A to Z.
I have to plug APEC, Alternative Propulsion Engineering Conference, or Anti-Gravity Engineering Conference, and that is the community that is studying all of this stuff. I co-stream it with Tim Ventura and alien scientist Jeremy Reese. We just did our first episode of year 3 yesterday, actually. And we've had such people as Kevin Day from the Nimitz Encounters on. He states emphatically that he feels that it is off-world, that the Tic-Tacs were. So it's like I would invite this new guy, if he'd presenting with Greer tomorrow and something good comes of that, that he comes on an APEC in the future and tells his story.
That's incredible. I'm glad that you're working with alien science. Jeremy's a good guy. He's one of the good guys in this field, actually. Do you guys want to hear about the kid and the 8-foot tall aliens, the update on this? They're talking about it.
Yeah, well, might as well. All
right, here it is.
Let's hear what they're trying to tell us.
I kind of am interested. And Davey Chains is waiting. We have a full house, so I can't let anybody else in yet. So just hang tight. I'm sorry, Davey. All right, here we go. Giddy up.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Don't forget to mute your mics.
They're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes. Like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Okay, a potential UFO investigation was sparked from this emergency 911 call in Las Vegas. On April 30th, a family claims something crashed in their backyard. The video coming out just this week, they claim they saw non-human, it's the way it was described, beings walking around, and whatever it was, it looked right at them, they say. The officers who went to the home also reported seeing a flash in the sky. That's significant. Right before this 911 call came in, here's a look at police body camera video from that night.
This might sound like a really dumb question, but did you guys see anything fall out of the sky? I would normally discount it as nothing. However, seeing as one of my partners said they saw it too.
Okay, News Nation correspondent Nancy Liu has more on this. Nancy, I got to tell you, the guy just sounded so calm to me. That's what I like. He didn't even sound excited, and he was basically saying he saw an alien. What do you make of it?
Elsewhere in the call, though, he truly sounds scared and anxious. And also the police body cam, you hear the bewilderment and a little bit of fear in the voices of the officers. So it's hard to know what to believe, but we should tell you that there was a follow-up a few days later with the police going to the home of that family, and the family reported seeing government-looking vehicles in the neighborhood. They also reported seeing men in suits and dark glasses. So we don't know if that's popular culture weaving into a hoax, or if there really is this covert retrieval program that Dave Grush alleges exists in our government.
Yeah, certainly sounds like a scene from a movie when you talk about the sunglasses and the suits, but there was video. I mean, there was body camera video, and then they released clearer video, the police did, and there was clearly something in the sky. We know you'll stay on it, Nancy. Thanks for being with us tonight. Okay, there's more to come, though. Grush's account has racked up millions of views. It's a topic in government and media worldwide right now. But what's next? Where does all of this lead? Are there more government whistleblowers ready to come out of the shadows, back up his story, or should we just toss all of this aside as fiction and move on?
Quarantine now before.
Here with journalist Ross Coulthart. Before we go,
see if there's anything left.
Final thoughts with Ross. You know, we watched your incredible.
All right, we don't need the final thoughts, guys. We got it. We got it at this point. Wouldn't you agree? There's not more they can say. Okay, the alien kid, I'm going to start off saying I think this kid is lying. He has an alien UFO channel, and the kid's got like how many subs now? 5,000 off of that, and he was bragging about getting the subs. But he supposedly had evidence, and that hasn't come to light. So anybody want to feed off what I just said?
I will. I actually wrote it down.
Nice.
I was thinking about this earlier today. because there were a lot of things going on with that. I think it's interesting that they have the alien, the kid who's seeing the aliens in the backyard mixed with what's going on right now. Because from what I say, and I've talked to other people about it, they're like, I don't believe that alien stuff going on with the 8-foot aliens. And then I'm like, well, that was interesting, but what's really interesting is what's going on right now. But I just wanted to clarify for a couple people that that fireball in that area was confirmed, right? And they had very vibrant colors. And if you've ever seen a fireball, it looks like and this is all potential. Lynn's here, and Lynn and I have some great conversations about everything like this, because I'm not saying the aliens didn't land in his backyard. We tend to just try to get as down every rabbit hole as we can so that we have a good understanding of all of the perspectives. But an astronomical society did find that there was a fireball that had gone through in that area. And I just thought that was something to bring up. They haven't come forward since then, including Angel, but the kid monetized in 24 hours. 24 hours. He got 6,000 subscribers, 500,000 views on a video, his first video. So like his second video, he's just going to go straight to the top. I mean, he's got it all set
not
up.
this
He's ready
kid.
to go.
No way. It's over for him. He's a one-hit wonder. He'll have 10,000, 20,000 subscribers and no views on all of his videos from here on out, because he's going to be dubbed a fraud.